Alright YouTube, here I am back with this 62 in the background. We're going to see if we can get this torch over here and get some heat in those brake drums in the front and see if we can break them loose without totally destroying anything. It'd be cool to be able to get it rolling and maybe even try to free up that water pump on the engine and get it pumping again. That would be a miracle, I think. But we're going to try for it anyways. Get some water in it. I don't think I'm going to go for coolant. See if we can take it for a little test drive just around the yard. Nowhere big. Most likely not going to have brakes. I pushed on the brake pedal. It is very hard. It's not moving at all. And I don't know if that's from the shoes being stuck inside the drum, or if it's just the master cylinder itself's locked up. I didn't even take the top off of it. There may or may not be fluid in it. I can't imagine, as low as this was in the dirt, that any of the brake lines underneath are left. So we'll get the torch fired up and I'll get the camera on it and we'll see if we can heat these things up and get them loose. It's pretty cruddy looking. No wonder it's stuck. So I'm planning on getting some vinegar soon, because I'm going to put some vinegar down in DeSoto to clean out the water jackets and stuff in it, try to clean it up. And I'll probably put some in here as well. That's a whole lot of rust in there, and maybe I can dissolve a little bit of it, but I'm going to soak this thing and see if I can get it freed up. Like to have it functioning without having to buy a new one, but we'll just have to see how it goes. Alright, since I got the water pump off and there's all this rust down in the cooling jackets and everything, I think what I'm going to do, because I don't know what is in here, I'm going to take these two bolts out, take this water neck off, and make sure there's no thermostat in there. While I got it apart, I might as well go ahead and try to flush through it a little bit. I think first time I try to run it, I'm going to fill it up with some white vinegar, and hopefully that'll clean through here. The only thing that worries me is with the amount of rust that's down inside there, I'm hoping that they didn't just leave it parked with water in it and end up with a cracked block or a freeze plug that's blown out. Mainly just a cracked block, because, you know, if I was going to save this for something and took it out, I could go ahead and replace the freeze plug. So we'll get some tools, we'll take this off and see what's underneath there. I'll probably just end up, a lot of times these saddle clamps don't hold up when you take them apart, so they'll probably just get replaced with regular old screw clamps. Yeah. I hope the camera's picking up on this. All this stuff sitting on top. There's a thermostat here. It just rust flakes. The gasket still looks okay. Underneath of it, I'm not seeing a whole lot. It looks like it was pretty new, maybe. But sitting that long, I don't want to trust it and overheat it playing around with it, you know. So I'll get the garden hose down here and we'll flush through the block as much as we can. Maybe shoot a little through the radiator too. Okay, I just did a whole lot of talking without my camera on, so there's that. So this is the water pump that was on there, locked up solid. I ended up taking a hammer like that one, tapped around on the center near the shaft. I couldn't even see really the blades of the impeller to know where or how it moved, and I've not messed too much with 235 water pumps or anything. So once I got it tapped and some stuff fell out of there, a little rust and debris, I got a little bit of movement about like that. I could see where I was hitting high spots build up, and was able to take a flat blade screwdriver and just kind of jam down in there and break it all loose and scrape it. So turns nice and free, bearing feels good and tight. Don't know about the packing, but as bad as the radiator leaks, which you missed that part. Radiator leaks pretty bad. It'll just have to be a real short test drive, I assume. Which means I'm also not going to mess with putting vinegar in it, because it'll just run out of the radiator all over the ground. So I took the thermostat out, cleaned that up, put it back together. I'm going to put this water pump back on, get the fan blade on, get the fan belt on, hook the generator up and all that. I did try to flush it. This hole down here where the water pump was so big that it wouldn't build enough pressure to flush out any of the other stuff. So I'm gonna have to try to put this back on and flush through it again, and maybe just kind of restrict this a little bit until it builds up some water inside the block, and then release it and try to flush it out that way. It would be really lucky and really uncommon if some of the debris and sediment that was in the engine broke loose and plugged up the radiator and I didn't have any more leaks. But, you know, what are the chances of that happening? So, let me get the block kind of scraped off here, and we're not going for perfect because everything else seems to leak. And we'll get this water pump back on. There was not a gasket on here in the first place, so I'm not putting one back on it. I am going to throw a little RTV on there. Yeah, I could put a little stop leak in it, just for tests and trials. I'm not going to put any kind of antifreeze in it, so anything that runs out is not going to hurt the environment. It'll just be water. There is a gasket on here. Man, that thing is thin. No, still not going to put a gasket on it though. This cooling system's not going to take a whole lot of pressure either way. This hose is so soft. It's probably the softest radiator hose I've ever seen on a car. Probably because you would change it before it got that bad. My last video on this car really took off. Really did well with my numbers, the views, comments, the likes. Got a couple hundred new subscribers out of it. I really appreciate all of you. Okay, I didn't mean to this old house the project on you. I got the water pump back on. It kind of dragged a little bit, some debris down in there, but it's moving free now. I'm gonna get the garden hose, throw some stuff on the ground, and then try to flush through there again and see what we can get. It's gonna be a little tougher just because I put the water neck back on. So we're gonna pretty much lose water everywhere, but it's only water. Yeah, we got some brown coming out of there now. Flowing through pretty good. I'm sure there's plenty of rust still left in there. I really only flushed it so I didn't have any problems with big pieces floating around. I'm sure more will break loose, but you know, I was just trying to keep some of it from happening. Just for the fun of it, I'm going to go ahead and hook the heater core back in. I'm sure it'll leak all over the floor. Here shortly I'm going to clean the inside of the car out, which is just nasty, gross, with, well, poop and a lot of animal hair and whatever else is in there. So I'll get a vacuum, get a garbage bag, definitely some gloves and a mask, and go to town on cleaning that out. And then I'm going to get the pressure washer out. It's just a little dinky low pressure washer. Put a little simple green in it, and see if we can clean this thing up a little bit before we maybe take it for a spin. I don't know if you can tell or not, but it is back on the ground. I got all four wheels and tires, got all the tires holding air. One of the front ones, I could not get it to hold air. There was so much dirt and mud in between the bead. I couldn't get it cleaned out, and to try to break down the tire, it's just going to destroy it. But my dad had in his collection of junk a 14-inch. It's a little newer style rim, but the tire does hold air after I replaced the valve stem. I don't like having to line up all these holes. This water pump, you got to line up the holes to the pulley. You got that little shim plate behind there, and I don't know if it just keeps that bell from ringing or what. If anybody knows what this shim plate that I threw on the ground is, this thing, it goes in behind this pulley. I'd be interested in knowing what it's there for. Alright, I'll get you in here for another look before we get it cleaned up. I don't know that I'll do anything elaborate like wiping the dash down or anything like that, but I also don't want to sit in a pile of animal poop. Going for a test drive. Alright, I'll mask up and get cleaning. Getting ready to take this thing for a test drive with any luck. We're gonna get it started. I got my gas can set up there. I got my fuel line looped around in case the bungee unhooks itself. Let's hope none of that happens. Not even sure if that battery's charged up good, but that fuel pump did work last time, so we're gonna go with that. It'll probably take it a few drinks like that to draw from the tank. Try not to crank it too much after the battery seems like it's a little low. I think it's getting closer. I don't see anything squirting yet. We kind of lost the starter for a minute there. I don't know what happened, but I guess I wiggled the wires enough to a dead connection reconnected. not bad for a first drive, I guess. Originally I thought it set since 1980, but after I pressure washed the license plate, it actually says 83. There was like a glob of something growing right there in the middle of the 3, so say 39 years. So I pressure washed the inside, and with this thing sitting as low as it was in the mud, I think the water had come up in it because there was about a 2-inch layer of mud in the floor pans. I pressure washed the seat too, but that's why I was sitting on a towel, because it's still a little damp. But not too bad. The engine actually has pretty good power. You know, it definitely needs to tune up, and you know, the gas I put in, it's not that old, so, but you know, for what it is, pulling it out of the weeds, digging it out of the mud, and that's pretty cool. So I guess that's it. The more I look at this thing, the rougher it looks. Probably going to end up parting it out. I know a couple people that are already requesting things off of it, so that's probably the way I'll go. Engine and transmission seem pretty solid, even though the column shifter is really stiff. I'll probably hang on to the drivetrain, probably find a project for it later. But I appreciate everybody watching. I started an Instagram. I don't know how good I'm going to be at that either. So for now, here on YouTube, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.